Right now on To The Point, new details in the hostage situation involving U.S. Forest Service employees.
I think this is the only case I have ever sought expedited admission for.
What one state already knew about one of the men involved. Plus, candidate for Governor Steve Hilton dropping new political ads. The hill he has to climb to November. President Trump threatening major escalation in the Iran war, where Congress stands on the issue. And a hot mic moment at Sacramento City Hall. Now City Council is responding. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us on To The Point. I'm Walt Gray, and tonight for Alex. Tonight, an ABC10 investigation uncovers a troubled criminal history of one of the men accused of kidnapping 2 U.S. Forest Service employees at gunpoint last week. Now, questions are being raised about whether a state's mental health system missed an opportunity to intervene. Let's bring in investigative reporter Adrian Thomas now joining us in studio with newly obtained video. Adrian.
Well, Walt, Joseph Henriksen and his son Phoenix are now facing federal kidnapping charges, but records I obtained show that 4 years ago, a judge ordered Joseph Henriksen to receive competency restoration services in Washington state. He spent months waiting in jail, never received that court-ordered treatment, and was released after the case was dismissed. I also obtained video from that earlier investigation and spoke exclusively with the prosecutor who tried to get Henriksen into the Washington State Hospital.
Saddened, not surprised. Those are my initial reactions. It's frustrating for a number of reasons. That's not the least of which, of course, I don't like the fact that he was able to access firearms and do this again.
In Washington state, Whatcom County prosecutor Benjamin Pratt reflects on prosecuting Joseph Henriksen 4 years ago. Court documents obtained by ABC10 show Joseph Henriksen was charged in March 2022 with felony and malicious harassment along with hate crime charges. Newly obtained surveillance video we obtained by requesting evidence in this case shows a man prosecutors say is Henriksen, dropping what appears to be a note on someone's front porch, then lighting a firecracker and walking off. Other video at the same home shows the man said to be Henriksen lighting 2 more firecrackers and throwing them at the house. Other videos show the same man throwing firecrackers towards the home on a separate occasion. Prosecutors allege Henriksen targeted the homeowner because of their Russian and Ukrainian heritage, shortly after Russia invaded Ukraine. Evidence we obtained through public records show authorities had taken a large number of assault rifles from Henriksen's home, and photos show Henriksen left concerning objects at the victim's home, like zip ties, and this note saying, "Assassinate Vlad Putin." Other disturbing videos taken by law enforcement show human-shaped targets placed around Henriksen's property at the time. About a month after Henriksen was charged, the court found that he was incompetent to stand trial in April 2022. Court documents show a judge ordered Henriksen to have psychiatric inpatient treatment in the custody of Washington's State Department of Social and Health Services for 45 days, and that Henriksen was to be admitted to the treatment facility no later than 14 days after the court order. Only Henriksen remained waiting in jail and never made it to the state hospital as ordered by the court.
So the state hospital prioritizes its beds based on, first in time, but then nature of charge. So if you have a bunch of people who are charged with murder, they can go above the people who are charged with a Class C felony, in this case, malicious harassment.
According to Pratt and case documents, Henriksen remained in jail for months due to capacity issues in Washington State Psychiatric Hospital system. In July 2022, this led to Henriksen's defense attorney to file a motion to dismiss the charges. This even after Pratt says he tried to get Henriksen admitted to the state hospital as quickly as possible.
But it's also extremely concerning because I think this is the only case I have ever sought expedited admission for. It was denied by the state. And then when I opposed dismissal in this case, the court did it anyways when they didn't have to.
A month later, in August 2022, Henriksen's charges were dismissed by a Whatcom County judge due to Washington State Hospital being held in contempt for not finding treatment for Henriksen. After sitting in jail for several months waiting for a state hospital bed, Henriksen was let out. 4 years later, federal prosecutors allege Henriksen and his son kidnapped 2 U.S. Forest Service employees at gunpoint in Siskiyou County. Pratt says the new charges show why the system must intervene before someone facing less serious charges is accused of something worse.
If the system is only prioritizing the Class A felonies, we're waiting until the people with the serious mental health issues get to the point where they're committing the A felony instead of the C felony.
Yeah.
It's a far cry from having a malicious harassment, threatening to kidnap somebody, threatening to kill somebody, and then actually doing it. And that can't be the only place where we start to act and force treatment.
Now, both men face 2 counts of kidnapping and aiding and abetting after allegedly holding 2 U.S. Forest Service biologists hostage. They're due back in court, federal court rather, on August 3rd. Walt?
Adrian, thank you. So what is Washington State saying about all this?
Well, we asked Washington's Department of Social and Health Services about the delays and the contempt finding. The agency cited patient privacy laws and would not address Heinrichson's case specifically. We pushed back, clarifying that we are not seeking medical information. So we're still waiting for answers about the system's handling of court-ordered competency services. Walt?
All right, Adrian, thank you for digging into that. All right, let's go to your voice, your vote. And tonight, State Attorney General Rob Bonta is responding to claims that he has rigged a voter ID measure that'll be on the ballot in November. Last night on this very program, To the Point, we talked with Republican Assemblymember Carl DeMeo, who says Prop 39's ballot title is being manipulated to try to encourage people to vote no. Bonta says rewriting titles and summaries is part of the process and that his office made changes to all 9 measures this November.
We have legally granted discretion and to provide further clarity as helpful to voters to describe in a more clear way what the measure does.
So Prop 39's original language says the proposition establishes additional voter identification and citizenship verification requirements. It now reads, quote, prohibits citizens from voting unless they present government-issued identification, end quote. DeMeo says he is weighing his options as it may be too late to file a lawsuit before a ballot guide is actually printed. All right, in the race for governor, Republican candidate Steve Hilton is already releasing new ads ahead of November, the latest created with AI. Hilton posted it on X, saying the ad is from same people who helped former LA mayoral candidate Spencer Pratt. Hilton also released a TV ad this week trying to convince Californians that opposition to President Trump does not have to mean opposition to him. Hilton faces an uphill battle, one recent poll finding Javier Becerra at 61% to Hilton's 36%. Paul Mitchell, an election data guru, says this.
For Steve Hilton to have any chance, he would have to break into a lot of those independent voters and then also more moderate, less partisan Democratic voters. If he is extremely effective at doing this, he might have an ability to deflate some of the anti-Trump fervor from the Democratic side and do something to increase Republican engagement, maybe soften the anti-Republican stance of a lot of more moderate Democrats.
So Hilton acknowledges that he was endorsed by Trump and that he has positive, practical plans to make life better in the state. Becerra's campaign says in part, quote, voters won't find salvation in Donald Trump's disciple, end quote. All right, coming up right here on To the Point, the Iran war. Airstrikes continue in the Middle East tonight as Congress appears split over supporting the conflict. And California involved in another lawsuit against the Trump administration. Why this one involves emergency services.
And temperatures very seasonal and very consistent over the next several days, but get used to this because we've got a warm and quiet weather pattern sticking around. You should stick around. I've got the forecast after the break.
But first, in other headlines tonight, the man who pled guilty to plotting a politically motivated mass assassination will spend the rest of his life in prison. Vance Bolter apologized in court as he was sentenced today, roughly 1 year after shooting 5 people, including 2 Minnesota state lawmakers. Former Minnesota House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband were both killed. Tonight, The White House says they're monitoring what OpenAI is considering an unprecedented cyber incident. OpenAI says one of their AI models escaped containment, accessed the internet, and hacked into the systems of another company, an AI startup named Hugging Face. And the Dodgers were at the White House today celebrating their World Series win. Dodgers chairman Mark Walter gave the president a personalized ring and jersey. The LA Times reports despite backlash, manager Dave Roberts said the tradition is apolitical.
Well, it's another very seasonal day across Northern California. For Sacramento, it was perfectly seasonal. High temperature today, 93 in the capital city, 92 in Stockton, 92 in Modesto, 86 in Tahoe, 88 in Truckee. Again, perfectly normal. We hit our normal high temperature of 93 degrees. But it wasn't just today, really this entire month. Climatologically speaking, our average high temperatures have been exactly what we'd expect. Our 1991 to 2020 average for July to date, 92.5 degrees for our normal high temperature. July 2026 average high temperature to date, 92.8. So we're 0.3 of a degree of climate normals to this point. We know how hot it could be this time of year, so we'll absolutely take that. We've got more of it on the way. 89 in Sacramento right now, 91 in Stockton, 92 in Modesto, 86 in Placerville, 81 in Tahoe this evening. As we look at those winds, 10 to 15 miles per hour onshore across the valley, sunny skies, and if you've got any plans, we'll have a nice cool down thanks to that wind. 70s by 9 o'clock, 60s as we work through the rest of the evening, and then Friday morning we start off in those upper 50s across the valley, about 58 in Sacramento, and we'll stay a little breezy through the overnight as well. So this is 9 o'clock. Now we're looking at about 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. We still see some of that onshore wind, and then we'll have another nice delta breeze developing tomorrow afternoon and evening. And once again, seasonally warm, 94 Sacramento, 94 in Stockton, 94 in Modesto, some 90s in the foothills and 80s in the high country on Friday afternoon. High pressure scoots off to the west just a little bit. It's going to shut off that monsoonal flow for a while, keep those tropical systems headed west. So over the next week, even in the high country, not looking at any accumulating rainfall. Over the next 10 days, plenty of seasonal temperatures. It does get a little warmer towards the very end of July and start of August, but again, I've said it a few times, it could be so much worse this time of year. Walt.
Definitely. Brendan, thank you. Still ahead, the Iran war, the new strikes happening tonight. And the hot mic moment at Sacramento City Hall that people are still talking about. Welcome back. Tonight, California filed its 79th lawsuit against the Trump administration. That's just since the president took office last January. This time, California, along with more than 20 other states, says the federal government is illegally withholding billions in emergency assistance funding. The coalition of states argues the Trump administration is withholding that money for political reasons.
Trump is attempting to use this funding as leverage to force states to adopt his preferred political agenda. The Trump administration is trying to attach unlawful, unrelated conditions to emergency preparedness funding that Congress intended to keep our communities safe.
So in response, a FEMA spokesperson tells us in part, quote, this partisan pushback is nothing new. This year, states must take critical, common sense steps to protect U.S. elections before receiving their full Homeland Security Grant Program awards. These new requirements will preserve election integrity, end of quote. All right, let's go to the Iran war now. U.S. airstrikes continuing tonight. It's the 13th straight night of strikes on Iranian military targets, as Iran says they struck more U.S. military assets. Here's ABC's Rena Roy.
CENTCOM releasing this video saying the U.S. struck Iranian military targets overnight. Human rights activists in Iran say there's been nearly 3,700 Iranian casualties since February.
We do it because we have to do it, because we cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon.
Meanwhile, Iranian-backed militants in Yemen taking aim at 2 Saudi oil tankers in the Red Sea in an attempt to block international shipping, choking another key waterway that could have ripple effects for the world economy. President Trump saying the U.S. will inflict, quote, major military punishment on Iran and the Houthis if the attacks continue. Iran also threatening tankers in the Strait of Hormuz.
They will pay a very heavy price for the things they're doing. They're already paying a very heavy price. They're probably not ready to do a deal yet, but they will be soon, because the price they're paying is very high despite their tough talk.
Trump warning that for every Iranian strike on a ship in the Strait of Hormuz, the U.S. will bomb and destroy one bridge or power plant inside Iran. Deliberately targeting civilian infrastructure is a potential war crime under international law.
Global oil hit $100 a barrel after Trump's comments that he will inflict military punishment, and gas prices are once again being impacted. According to Gas Buddy, the national average for a gallon of regular is more than $4, up 16 cents from last week. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
All right, Rena, so here's a look now at gas prices in California. According to AAA, regular gas, $5.57 a gallon. That's up more than $1 from a year ago. And as the war in Iran continues, Congress remains split over whether to support this conflict. Today, the House narrowly passed a resolution to halt U.S. military action in Iran, but the resolution did not pass the Senate. Not the first time the House has done this since the conflict began. And tonight, Sacramento City Council facing scrutiny after the mayor and vice mayor were overheard whispering about banning some members of the public from coming to their meeting. ABC 10's Jeannie DeWin now here to explain what happened and what's allowed during public meetings.
It got really intense inside council chambers here at City Hall on Tuesday. Members of the public were yelling at council members, and it got to the point where the mayor called to clear out the chambers. But once the meeting resumed, it was what was caught on a hot mic that has some raising some questions.
We should go over this disruptions thing, because if we want to ban somebody in the future, like to actually take them out, we have to point out and specifically say who's being banned.
We're going to say it's wrong, so we can't do that.
We did it last time.
Can't. So I spent my first 6 months going through this. I wanted to give people like probation, like you can't come.
This interaction between Sacramento City Vice Mayor Karina Talamantes and Mayor Kevin McCarty happened on Tuesday afternoon following a heated city council meeting.
Kevin, listen to me!
Council members received a lot of backlash during public comment over an item on the consent calendar to authorize the city to accept a grant that would fund the Central California Intelligence Center.
Despite all your confidence in the city manager, there's no local guardrails that can prevent this information from being shared.
After multiple warnings to the public to stop interrupting the meeting, Mayor McCarty cleared chambers to establish decorum. What was caught on the mic between the mayor and vice mayor is something Councilmember Phil Pluckybaum says he agrees with, but acknowledges it wasn't meant to be public.
Karina said what she wanted to say to Kevin. I don't think, she's, walking away from her statement. It's just not something that was intended for everyone.
The First Amendment Coalition says while public meetings have become more heated, the Brown Act still protects the public's right to attend and speak during public comment.
So as long as it does not rise to the level of a true threat to cause harm, but simply being angry and simply using profanity, while it may not be polite, that's politics.
Pluckybaum says he hears the community's concerns about safety, but encourages the public to engage in a productive manner.
We're doing what we can within the law, within the authority we've been given to provide the best protections that we can for the public, and it's not enough. I agree, but coming and yelling at us isn't going to make it any better.
Vice Mayor Karina Talamantes didn't respond to our multiple requests for comment, but Mayor Kevin McCarty did provide us with a statement that says in part that council is committed to ensuring all members of the public can access and engage safely without distraction or intimidation. You can view his full statement on our website at abc10.com. In Sacramento, Jeannie DeWin, ABC 10.
Still ahead right here, we have our Champions of Hope, the corrections employees being honored for saving a 94-year-old woman. Every week in our Champions of Hope, we introduce you to people making a positive impact. Tonight, our Alex Bell joins us through the magic of videotape, showing us how 3 off-duty California corrections employees became heroes.
Jeremy smelled smoke, so he came to the side of the house, and that's how it started.
In 2024, they were working on a nearby home when they saw smoke coming from another home. They raced through the thick smoke and intense heat to save an elderly woman still in her bedroom. They led her to safety before first responders arrived.
We had some bottled water, some paper towels to try to clean her up, because literally we were all black. Went and turned off the gas, the electrical to the house, and then after that, him and I ended up running back in and opening up all the windows to try to get all the smoke out of the house.
Just glad we were there. We just happened to be at the right place at the right time. Had it been a few hours later, we would have been done for the day and not been there. So just glad we were there.
Their selfless actions earned the men California's Medal of Valor, the state's highest honor for heroism, awarded on behalf of the governor to state employees who go above and beyond in extraordinary acts of courage. But perhaps the most meaningful moment was what Grandma had to say during the ceremony.
When they call me Grandma, I feel 10 foot tall because they are so good to me.
Great story. Thank you, Alex. And thank you for joining us. If you have something you think we should be looking into, reach out to the team. Email tothepoint@abc10.com.